Welcome to Harmonious Clan's live parenting coaching replay. We do our live coaching every Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 11:30 a.m. Central, and 12:30 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live. Louisa will answer your questions, help you walk through your struggles, and provide you with strategies you can apply now to bring out the gem that is your child from that diamond in the rough.
Hi, I'm Louisa Kasha from Harmonious Clan. I engineer outside-the-box solutions for outside-the-box children. And today I want to talk to you about outside-the-box solutions for outside-the-box children. And I also want to talk to you about revealing the gem out of the rough surface. So who are these outside-the-box children am I talking about? Now, they are any kids that just don't fit into a cookie cutter solution. They're typically, some of them may have some diagnosis. Some of them actually don't. They don't have any diagnosis. And if you're the parent of one of these children, you will know it because life feels a little harder than the rest of the parents. It just feels like you're always worried about something. It feels like there's a constant struggle in some area of his or her life, as in your child's. So generally speaking, it's just children that don't fit into a cookie cutter solution, don't fit into the box. So many of them have diagnoses such as autism, or some have Asperger's, ADHD, or a series of things, and some of them have sensory processing disorder. And like I said, many of them do not have any diagnosis at all. Actually, majority of the children don't have any diagnosis at all, but they just don't really fit into a box solution. And what do we do about them? I mean, we can't just leave them alone. They're always struggling with something. Sometimes they have certain problems in school. Sometimes certain issues at home or homework or whatever it is may become challenging or difficult for them. Now, I want to let you know that I specialize in revealing the gem out of these children. And I really am very, very a firm believer that in these children, there is a gem inside of them. For example, I have 6 children myself, and I can see that many of them just don't fit into the box. You know, many of them, you have to have very creative solutions. And that is what I do. I create outside the box solutions. Many of them have very, very you have to have creative solutions. You have to have alternative strategies. You have to have additional support, and you have to almost pat them around, not sort of put them inside of a bubble, but you really need to pat the environment around them. You need to prep themselves internally and externally in every way. And if you do that, they can actually perform very, very well in any area of their lives, especially the areas that you're having struggles with. I mean, for some, it may be focus, it may be concentration, it may be, you know, some kids just have problem with school. That's really typical, really common. Can't sit down, can't focus, can't perform in school, or even including just can't complete the task, or having struggles with social situations, you know, having conflicts with peers and that can't get resolved. And there are many, a big array of things that these children struggle with. What I want to talk to you about is the diamond in the rough idea today. I want to tell you about revealing the gem. Revealing the gem. I want to talk to you about the diamond in the rough. So you know that we have a diamond here, but usually it's inside, right? It's inside of a hard rock, and no one would ever know. No one would ever know about it. It's just a rough surface. It's outside of it. And that is what many times what these children look like. I mean, on the outside surface, it seems pretty rough. What I mean by that is you're seeing a lot of issues. You're seeing behavior issues. You may see social issues. You may see task completion issues. You may see performance issues. So you're seeing a lot of behavior issues. What I call these, that's the behavior outside, which I consider that really to just be nothing but the rough surface. That's the outside. But that's all that we see, your child's teachers see, maybe. That's what us parents see sometimes. I mean, that is just what's exposed outside that you can see. The child has behavior issues. Sometimes they may not be exactly conforming. They may not be respectful. They may not behave the way you expect them to. And when I say behavior, it doesn't just mean, oh, the child is hitting or screaming or doing something to other people. What I mean by behavior issues, it also includes, if the child is fidgeting a lot, and they can't concentrate on any task, or they're so talkative that they can never focus or get anything done. Sometimes it may be that they have executive functioning problems. And executive functioning problems has a big array of things. I mean, it includes unable to plan ahead for themselves, lack of planning skills, lack of organizational skills, lack of task initiation. So, I mean, we see that pretty often. Hey, take the trash out. And then they're there and they're just doing whatever but taking the trash out, right? I mean, and you think, okay, come on, I asked you to do one simple little thing and you haven't done it. It's been 10 minutes. I kept nagging you and it's one little thing. I might as well just do it myself. I mean, sometimes as parents feel that way. Well, that's a task initiation problem. The child has a problem initiating the task. And no matter how simple it may be, sometimes it's just so hard to take that very first step to even get to the trash can, to lift up the bag, to get it out. So that's an initiation problem. And a lot of children struggle with initiation when it comes to homework. I mean, no matter what it is, just anything that requires a little bit of effort on their part, it's so hard to initiate. I mean, they could wake up in the morning, have breakfast, play video games, do this, do that. I mean, or even if they come home from school, they're having a snack, they're playing this, they're doing anything but to sit down and do the homework that they need to be doing, right? Or to do the chores that they need to be doing, or even going to bed. They're doing all kinds of things and they can't get to go to bed. So all of this is task initiation. It falls under the executive functioning areas. And once you initiate the task, if the child can actually start the task, can they sustain through the period of that task execution long enough in order to finish it, and then can they complete it? So there are 3 stages: task initiation, the sustaining, and finally the completion. Can they bring it to completion, or do they always go 85% and then they're done and they can never get in? It just seems so hard to get in that last 10% to call it done. So all of these are types of behaviors that you see. I mean, there are other types of behaviors such as melting down, getting really easily agitated, frustrated, or even the lack of resilience, lack of persistence, lack of ability to stay put with something that's hard, that's tough. I see this all the time. I mean, children melt down, or they give up, or they somehow, whatever it is that they do, they run away from the really difficult tasks. Some go and play their video games, some dawdle, some daydream, some of them melts down, some of them have a tantrum, some of them have a fit, some of them cry, some of them just, they're happy, they still got their smiling face, they're sitting in front of it, but they're just not doing it. So there are all kinds of ways to avoid tasks that are difficult for them to do. And that's another one of these, what I call the outer rough surface, a behavior issue that is really getting in the way of the jam showing up. So if a child can't sit through something that's difficult, if a child can't concentrate, if a child can't initiate a task, if a child can't regulate their own emotions, they're having a fit, and it's not because they want to have a fit. Sometimes it's just that hard for them to control themselves. If they have impulse control issues, no matter what behavior issues, they all get in the way from the true jam showing up. And what I want to talk to you about is our job as parents. And that's what we do here at Harmonious Clan is we specialize in helping you peel off all of this roughness that is a behavior of some sort, some type of behavior that is in the way from the true gem coming through. So the idea is once you are able to polish away all of these behaviors, if you can get the behavior out of the way, slowly the true gem will really start shining through. I mean, you will start to see the amazing, beautiful, talented child. I mean, they can perform better in every way. They can perform better in school, in academics, if it's a sport that they're playing. I mean, whatever behavior it is. And there's a lot, and there's even skills underneath that's missing that could be causing the behavior. There's a lot that they can do. I mean, if they're an athlete, they can be a much better athletes. I mean, if they're a musician, if they are art performer, if they even as a student, academically, they can perform that much better than what they're doing right now. If you think they're doing okay, let me just let you know, they actually can do much better once we can polish off the rough surface of the behavior, whatever behavior it may be getting in the way. And again, I don't want you to think when I refer to behavior, I mean that a child is a poorly behaved child. That is not at all what I mean. But I mean, there are things in the behavior aspect that really gets in the way from the real gem coming through, right? I mean, if somebody's trying to lose weight, just as an example, what I mean by behavior, it doesn't mean poor behaviors necessarily, but things that you do that gets in the way, that sabotages your success. If you want to lose weight, but you just can't seem to resist sweets, every time you see sweets and then we gorge into it or whatever it is, we just eat a little more than we should every time we see sweets, right? So that is a behavior that is exactly in the way of you possibly losing weight. If you want to be getting up and exercising every day to lead a healthy lifestyle, but every morning your alarm goes off and it just seems so hard to get out of bed. And then so you don't get out of the bed until you don't have time to go to the gym anymore. Well, that is a behavior that is in the way and that is sabotaging you from achieving your goal of exercising on a daily basis and leading a healthy lifestyle. So that's the sort of thing that I mean when I talk about a child's behavior. I mean, there are things that they are doing as well that truly is sabotaging their success. What is the problem with not acknowledging these behaviors that are in the way and not addressing them? Well, the problem is, one, your child cannot be all that they can be. I mean, they can be mediocres in whatever they do, but you will lose the opportunity and the chance to really allow them to be the best that they can be. I mean, we call this enabling them, enabling your child to really be outstanding. So they're missing that opportunity. Imagine that they come with this much potential, right? This is your full potential. This is everything that God gave you, and you come with this much full potential. But if this is where you're performing, can you see that we are wasting all of this? Where did all of this go? Where is the gap between where you're performing, where your child is performing, and where their potential is? All of this gap, a lot of portions of this gap has to do with the behavior. So that's why it is so important to find these behaviors that are in the way of their success. And if you can find them and address them, then you can directly fill in on the gap between where they are with their performance and where their potential is. I mean, if you talk about a child who's trying to get into college or just regular, academics, in school, which is a big concern for many parents and teachers, the gap between where a child performs and their potential, a lot of it, like I said again, it comes from the rough surface of the diamonds. It comes from the behaviors that we need to really look into and address. And no one can ever perform exactly at your potential. There's always a little bit of miss. We never get to our full potential, but we get pretty close. And our goal is for your child to be as close to their potential, very, very close to their potential, as close as possible, rather than having a gap that would just feel like you can do so much better. You can do it. I know you can do it. I know you can do so much better. So that's the idea. Now, talking about the behaviors, what is underneath the behaviors? It's so important to address the behaviors underneath, because many times it has their reasons under those behaviors, and the child needs, once you can address them, you can support them better, then they can actually address the behavior that's in their way and sabotaging their success, and they can reach their maximum performance and maximum potential. Some of the things that are underlying for the behaviors, it includes some things are internal. Children with sensory processing issues have a lot of issues internally that is really in the way of them to even live in the regular environment that we do. It's so difficult for them. And again, many children don't have any diagnosis, but they still have things internally, physiologically, that is impacting how they're performing, impacting how they interact with the world and how they perceive the world. So that's one area. Some internally, physiologically, sometimes it's sensory wise. And then there's also the external environment. There's so much we can do to actually set up their environment that is encouraging of their full potential and that is encouraging of their success. There's so much we can do with the environment. In my book, Outcast Outstanding, I talked a lot about all the things you can do within the internal self of the child and then within the external environments. And another big one is a skill deficit. That's one that I have had a series on talking about skill deficits. If you have missed that, go ahead and check out those recordings about the skill deficits. For example, you can't do fraction operation if you can't add or subtract even whole numbers, right? So there's skills, they're building blocks to skills, they're building blocks of skills that is necessary in order for a child to achieve something. So many times we're asking the child to do something. The expectation is there, but we don't realize that underneath the expectations of where they're supposed to perform, there are things underneath. There's skill deficits that are missing. And when I used to work with children a lot, it's just every time I go in and when I can fill in on those skill deficits, the children can perform a lot better. I have an engineering degree. So like I said, I engineer outside the box solution for outside the box children. I actually am an engineer, but instead of working on systems sort of problems, I decided to work on children. Of course, I just really love working with children. I can really see so much in them, and I have half a dozen myself, so why not, right? But when I used to be an engineering student and I used to tutor a lot, I've tutored a large part of my life in math. And for a lot of children that have problems that can't just seem to break that C or even that B in their math grades, many times when I go in and I fill in on the skill deficits, there's a concept that's missing. There's a fluency in this skill that's missing. When I fill in on those, the students within a few weeks, they can go from a C to an A with no problem at all. Sometimes it just has to do with looking at the gaps and what's missing underneath that's in the way. And many times the behavior is missing. Sometimes there are certain behaviors that we need to get rid of. There are certain behaviors that we need to replace with another one that actually promotes and helps with their success. So that's a part of it. So there are many, many reasons under the behaviors of why the child is behaving this way. So if we can address those from the underlying perspective, from under the water. So another analogy that I have and love, which I talked to a whole lot about in my book, is what's under the waterline. So here's the iceberg on the top, and the iceberg is the behaviors that we're seeing. That's all that we're seeing. I mean, when the Titanic hits it, they didn't know. When they thought that they turned around and they got around the iceberg because that's all they saw, they didn't realize that they actually hit the underneath the iceberg, because that's that much bigger and wider and deeper. So there's a whole lot under the waterline. Everything that's under the waterline are the reasons that's causing the behavior. I like to really engineer solutions and address the things that are under the waterline so that you can get to the tip of the iceberg. Otherwise, it's not really easy to get to the tip of the iceberg. And a lot of parents and teachers and caregivers are trying to use disciplining methods to get a hold of the child's behavior. They're trying to fix a behavior. They're trying to discipline. They're trying consequences. They're trying all kinds of solutions, and then never really getting lasting results, never really fully transforming the child. And the reason is because when we don't look at what's under the iceberg, I mean, you can chip away and a chip of ice at a time on the top, but you never really truly get rid of it. You never truly address it and get to the full transformation that is lasting and that is effective and that helps the child brings the jam out. So the idea today, to wrap up the idea today, is that we, as parents and caregivers and teachers, it's our job to reveal the gem out of every child. I mean, the child doesn't know what a gem they are inside, right? They don't know their full capacity, but we know sometimes, right? Most times we know you can do so much better. So it's our job to reveal the gem. To do that, so we need to start by observing to see what kinds of behaviors that are in their way of achieving their full potential. And then we go under the water to under the waterline to address those behaviors so that we can easily get a lasting transformation of behaviors that are sabotaging their success. And once we can get to the behaviors that are sabotaging their success, then we have successfully chipped away the rough edges outside of the diamond. So now the true diamond can shine through, meaning now your child can perform closer to their maximum potential in any area of life, even if we're just talking about home life. You know, if the home life, the dynamics, the relationship, whatever it is that is just so difficult, you know, if we go through this process of identifying behaviors, identifying the under the water reasons that's behind the behaviors, if we can go through the process, then we can really get to a transformation and we can really reveal the gem. So that's it for today. If you have any questions about any of these, please send me an email at Luiza, Luiza @harmoniousclan.com, and I'd be happy to personally give you a response. And if you haven't done so, invest 5 minutes to take our quiz at harmonious.com. I mean, invest 5 minutes to take a quiz to find out what your parenting style profile is and find out the little things you can do today to make your parenting more effective and more enjoyable, and to really bring out the gem in your child. Take that quiz. It only takes 5 minutes, but it'll give you an analysis of their 4 types of parents in the grid. I mean, it would show you that your parenting style, which specific style you are, and what the strength and the weaknesses for that style is. And so what you can do today, I mean, simple things that you can do today to make your parenting far more effective and far more enjoyable. If you're interested in the book, Outcast Outstanding, it's available on Amazon. And download our podcast for more educational resources like this at harmoniousclan.com.